particular armor, I'm going to coat this with latex. I know it has a lot of detail on it, but I think latex is still a better thing to do for body armor. You can definitely tool dip it, but the flexing, twisting sometimes doesn't hold up. But I really want to do this with rubber. I think it'll really smooth a lot of the details out. And what I did on this, on the fiberglass body form, this has an empty space in the back, so there's no way to put it all the way around. So what I did was I took 77 and I dusted very lightly on the foam and actually on the fiberglass body itself, and it's just enough to hold it. But don't go too heavy because it will stick and kind of tear your foam. So the key is to go light. And the tools you're going to need to do your latexing. If anybody out there is the first time seeing your video and you have not watched my how to make a foam helmet video, you can watch that and I talk about that as well. And it is the critter gun. And this is a siphon gun. This is what I use to spray the latex on with. And I have that. And for the latex, I have my balloon rubber latex. And there's two ways of tinting. You can get Berman's latex tint. You can buy that, and I use a Proline tint. That's all I have at the moment. But you can also use latex tints you can get. And I think Berman sells them, and they're really great because they're super concentrate, and you can just put a little end on a stick, put in latex, and it just makes the latex go the color you want it to go. And for this particular armor, I'm going to do gold metallic, and the best base coat for doing any metallic is black. So that's what we're going to do. So enough talking. Let's get started. What I like to do when I use my latex is I have a metal mesh I cut, lay out, have it ready to go. Because rubber latex, as great as it is, sometimes you get clumps and things in it, and it clogs your gun. So I always like to strain it, just like you're doing painting. People do this when they do automotive paint, but I'm just gonna pour this because clumps get in there. It's a little time consuming, but it's worth it. Ooh, there's a big clump. See, this is why I do that, because you get stuff like this, and that gets in your gun, it clogs it, then you have to stop, clean it out, and then do it again, so it's kind of time consuming. Granted, I try not to be nearly as much as a slob as I am right now, but now that I have this in here, this is why I take my Proline tint, and you don't need to add a lot. I go about that much, okay? That's it. Get my trusty tongue depressor, stir it up. Now with latex, it'll go dark gray, and you'll think, oh my gosh, that's not going to be dark enough. No, trust me, latex, it dries, much like paint, it dries darker than it appears. So if your latex is a dark gray like this, it's going to dry jet black. So don't keep adding tint to your latex to make it darker and darker, because what's going to happen, if you get it too dark, the pigment messes with the latex and it becomes less stretchy. So not a lot, just enough to make it dark gray, and that'll be plenty for black. That's plenty for this latex. That's plenty for this particular armor. Make sure my holes are clear. Here we go. So I'm going to wipe up my mess. We're right here in front of my makeshift spray booth, as you can see here. It's a visqueen plastic with frames and a exhaust fan. And also, when you're spraying latex, it builds large particles, so don't forget to wear your mask. What I'm going to do is, before I start spraying, this foam, when you're putting latex on foam, you want to have an adhesion to it. So what I end up doing is I use 77, Super 77. I'm going to spray all the foam first with 77, and that'll give a tacky surface, and then I'll spray my latex onto the foam. You need some kind of adhesion. You don't have to use 77. You can also brush Barge on very thinly, but you want to have some tacky surface to the foam itself, so the latex itself sticks to the foam. If you just spray latex over the foam without putting any kind of adhesion to it, it'll have a tendency to peel off, and you don't want that. So, excuse me while I yell through my mask, but here we go. Let's spray some 77 on this guy. Be sure to get your edges everywhere around. Alright, just make sure I get the I turn my piece upside down here, as you can see, because I want to make sure I get all the angles here. So sometimes you'll find it you won't be able to do this, but if you do, be sure to get down low. You're spraying from one angle, always could get down to the low angle as well. Get all this up underneath as well. Got my gun, prepared all loaded with latex, ready to go. Also mentioned, you need a compressor to fire this. So I have Thicker brush back here is what shoots the air through my critter gun. And now I'm going to spray latex. And when I'm spraying, I like to do a lot of thin coats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up a lot of thin coats. You don't want to do too heavy because it will drip. So thin coats on top of that. So here we go. Get your mask on. All right. And the spraying begins. There's a lot of detail in this, so I gotta kind of make sure I get some angles on this. Just so I get the lower half first. Do my edges first. The trick with latex too is that once you start spraying, you got to keep going because latex will not stick to latex. If you spray something and let it dry and try to spray latex on top of it, it will not stick. So once you start coating, you got to keep coating. So what I do is I put my first layer on it and you let it dry a little bit. And normally you can blow a hair dryer on it if you want to speed it up, but the weather's quite warm today out here in Los Angeles, so it'll dry. So I spray, let it dry, not completely, just semi-dry, and spray on top of that. And that's how I build my layers. So once you start, I like to do on this particular armor, I think I'm going to do I think about 4 or 5 coats where I'll get a good coating on it, but it won't hide that much detail. But I always make sure when you're starting, you can't stop. Once you start spraying latex, you got to build layer on top of layer while it's still semi-wet. I just put it on, you see how it's translucent, starting to dry? This is the perfect time to put on my second coat. You start to see it dry, and it's dry enough that I can start building layers. So now, I'll do my second coat, once again, not too heavy. Let it dry just a little bit like this. So now I got it coated pretty well. Since this is light, I want to do this upside down because I can see all the stuff I missed. See all the white edges? So now, if I turn upside down, then goes down. Just the bottom edge. Just like painting. I just put on my final 4th coat of rubber latex, and I want to show you what it looked like. As you see, got it on nice and glossy. I didn't go too heavy, so it's really wet and shiny right now. It's a dark gray, but this will dry black. But I went through and got all this, and so it's got a nice, smooth, wet finish, and it's all nicely coated. All right, here we are. 8 hours later, the latex is all dry. And we're going to prep for paint. But before I take this off, what I have to do is get a little baby powder, cup, and a chip brush. Because what I want to do before we peel this off, I want to kind of brush baby powder on the edges. So when you're peeling latex off, sometimes latex will stick to itself, and you can have flashing stuff stuck to the body form. Or so we want to make sure you have a nice, good, clean pull. So to keep the latex from not sticking to itself, like to powder the edges. So let's do that first before we start painting. Brush a little on the edges here. That. You can see with the contact, that's where you want to get the most, where it's making contact. So get all this stuff in here. Oh, oop, that came off. See, very nice. That came off nicely. That's a happy accident. Off on this side. Because yeah, this is kind of floating, so it didn't stick too bad. But sometimes when you're doing foam, and the latex you'll put on pretty thick and it'll kind of grab right to the piece. You want to make sure you get a release on that. So, like that. Turn this upside down. And start to peel. So you can see what's grabbing right there. Get that off. And see, oop, pull a little bit off. You go back and touch that up. If you ever pull it up and you have a little bit of the foam showing, you can always put Barge on here and just go back in with latex, do a little touch up on that. I got the majority of it covered. Come over here. Take that off. Okay. All latex ready to be painted. Well, what I like to do first, before I do all this, on the back side, all these edges here, you can see. What I like to do is I want to brush, I'm going to brush some Barge Cement on these edges, all around these edges. And then once that goes, I'm going to put latex on it. So, and I'll explain to why I do, because this is an edge, and if you don't seal this, it will eventually start to peel up. So first thing first, we got this off, and now I'm going to go back and reinforce these edges. Okay, I have my Barge Cement, and we can see the edge right there. If you can see that, it just goes from latex to foam. And what I want to do is I want to brush a little bit of Barge Cement on top of the latex and the foam. And the reason I'm doing this is because in the early days of making costumes, I discovered that if you don't do this, the latex will start to catch and start to peel up. Even though you sealed it with 77, you got nothing's more corrosive than body sweat. When you're wearing these costumes, sweat will definitely eat at it. So what I'm going to do is take Barge, like I said. When you're doing this, make sure you go over your latex edge, a little bit of latex, a little bit of the Barge on top of the latex, and also the foam. Seal it with Barge and the latex. Because once you get this on here, you're going to go back in and cover latex on that. Let's go ahead and just do this first. Get this all coated. Alright, right now I have the edges all done. But as you can see, the seams on the inside, with the breast pieces, where everything joins, and my darts here, you want to barge those as well too. You want to seal that up. And the reason being because, once again, when you're wearing these costumes, I've discovered throughout the years, nothing's more corrosive than heat and body sweat. I don't care how great the barge is and the glues you use. Over a period of time, if you sweat and it seeps through, it will delaminate the glue. I worked on shows and I had a great costume. And it lasts through a movie, but after a duration of time, people's body sweat, it will start to eat the glue and start to make things delaminate. So to prevent that from happening, you're just going to go back through here and reinforce your seams with Barge. Put a little thin coat on it. And the reason we're putting Barge in is because this is going to help the latex. Because once this dries, we're going to go back in here with rubber latex. And that rubber latex is going to put a seal on that. And then the Barge helps the latex stick to the foam. So it is all just a double whammy to get this all really nice and thick there. Okay. Like I said, the Barge is dry. Let's go back in with some latex and go right over these seams. And you don't mind, it's okay to go a little thick on this because this is the back side. Because once this dries, this will keep these guys to stay together. There you go. And also, when you're doing this, go a little bit on the edges. So you get your back side. Get that on the edge, back side. But also, I put a little Barge on the top, so you want to get that as to just an extra guaranteed seal on that. Just like that. Just on the edge, so you prevent the peeling. There you go. There it is, what I've done. The back, you can see, is all sealed, latexed and dried, and now we're going to move on to paint. Well, this video tutorial got a bit detailed, so I'm sorry to break it into two parts. So be sure to come back for part 4 on how to make female cosplay armor, right here on the Evil Ted channel.